Now, Alex Maskey, as I said before, is member of the North of Ireland Assembly and former mayor of Belfast, among other many things.
Thank you, Ursula. I am reminded by Brian's earlier comments about sometimes involved in negotiations that there are talks about talks, and sometimes there are talks that never actually happened. And I often recall many occasions at conversations that I had or talks that I was involved in that actually were never supposed to have happened and have even yet never been publicly recorded. And so sometimes we live in a real world and we also live in a virtual world when you're involved in a peace resolution process. But nevertheless, they are also very important components, because sometimes perhaps when you confront a difficulty or confront an opponent, very often we have discovered that even if you can expose your opponent, sometimes that actually, even in a public way, can be counterproductive. So there are forms of negotiations and talks which do simply take many forms, and I think it's fair to say that they all have their role. I am very struck by all of the speakers this morning so far, and I can see elements and threads of commonality through all of the contributions. And I'm very struck also by the contribution from Salih Muslim, who, for example, was explaining that the priority for the Kurdish people in certain areas of Syria was to defend themselves. Also, the attempts to bring Kurdish people together to identify what their demands might be and how they could unify a voice. And the genesis and the basis of the Irish peace process was to try to present the problem in Ireland in a more simplistic terms to the general world, because we know that people in conflict are invariably described as terrorists or criminals, or it's a religious or it's a tribal war, and all of that is designed to confuse a wider international community who, if they imagine there's a problem between religions, they kind of believe, well, there's really nothing I can do about that. So it's designed to, if you characterise a conflict in some negative way like that, then you really just prolong the ability to get a solution. And I try to use a theme of exclusion to power sharing, and those are very moderate words, but you can translate those words into different words, and I think the words would resonate with people here. I mean, quite simply, I could say that as a citizen in my city, I was excluded from civic life. I could also then tell you that I was discriminated against in my society as a citizen in my city. I could also tell you that I was repressed, I was demonised, I was criminalised, I'm just using the personal as an example, that like so many other people would have been subject to ongoing assassination campaigns over a long number of years. So you can translate the word exclusion right through to murder. Also, power sharing in our context means that in the north of Ireland today, my party, which was that party which was demonised and discriminated against, excluded even from within the media airwaves, are now the joint governors of the north of Ireland as a consequence of the mandate that we have and the political process that we have. Okay, we'll try again. And I wouldn't for one moment say that I, like Brian, would be in any way an expert on your circumstances or, more importantly, the solutions that you require to embrace to resolve the problems of the Kurdish people in whatever state they happen to be entrapped in. But at the same token, I would say that I think in 2001 I visited Istanbul and I went to Armitlu, and it was the 20th anniversary of the hunger strikes in Ireland, in which Bobby Sands and many of his comrades died. And we visited people who were on death fast. And I remember meeting a gentleman who was on death fast, whose son was in prison on hunger strike. And when we left Istanbul, a week later that gentleman died on his death fast. And we left him when he was on a couch outside the front door of a makeshift home on the hillsides of Armitlu outside Istanbul. And you're trying to identify with those people in struggle. We met their families, we met their lawyers, we met some of their political representatives, all on a clandestine basis, because, as has been explained, and you know better than I, that the Turkish government would have been very repressive against those people. I also had an experience being involved in some of the Iraq negotiations through Helsinki 2 and into Baghdad, dealing specifically with the issue of Kirkuk and in the region of Kirkuk, and would have met during that process many of your colleagues. So we'd like to think that of some understanding of the plight of your people, and want to extend on behalf of my party our absolute solidarity with you and continued support for you in whatever way we can do that. And of course I know that, and you will know that many of your colleagues over the years have attended our annual party conference as an example of your solidarity with our struggle in Ireland also. And again, on behalf of Sinn Féin, I want to thank you for that as a community in struggle yourselves. But I do think it is important that people do have as a priority, notwithstanding the need for solidarity for others, that you do have to do what Salim Muslim outlined earlier on, and that is to work out as a people what actually your problems are, identify what your needs are, and try to prioritise how to tackle those in the immediate time. More importantly, you need to map out where you want to go and then have a plan as to how to get there. And in our circumstances in Ireland, we, rather than have our struggle characterised in the international community as a religious war between Protestants and Catholics, as it was being defined by the British government for many, many years, we sought to get the leaders of the political parties in the north, the nationalist political parties and the Republican parties, and that was my party and the SDLP, which was led by John Hume at that time, and the Irish government, to present to the world that the cause of Ireland was not simply a religious war, it was not a criminal conspiracy or a terrorist rebellion. The cause was a denial of the Irish people's right to self-determination. And it was the denial on the basis of systematic repression over many, many decades. That our island was divided and partitioned, and that our people were discriminated against on a whole range of levels of society. And when we began to bring the Irish government, the SDLP and Sinn Féin together on a common platform with one voice, that's when we effectively engaged the wider international community. And from our purposes, the two most important aspects of that international attention were South Africa and the US, and in particular Irish-American community and the presidency of Bill Clinton. And I say South Africa because South Africa had been going through their revolutionary post-apartheid into a new democracy. And that had been a very, very difficult, challenging time for all of the people concerned. So we were immediate beneficiaries of their experience. And we thank people like Brian Curran and Rolf Meyer and Mandela and Cyril Ramaphosa and many other African leaders, because they were all leaders in our mind. And we took their advice, we took their counsel. Their key advice to us was, don't let anybody tell you how to do your business. Learn from their experience and work out your own solutions. And we have been rigidly disciplined to that since to the very day that we speak here today. And very helpful was all the advice that we got and all of the experience, because in the very basic terms it allowed us not to make the same mistake twice. We make our own mistakes, but we like to think we've learned from experiences elsewhere, in particular the South African experience. So for us in the last many, many years, we were very fortunate to get from a position where we had conflict on the street. We had one of the most, probably the most highest militarised region in all of Western Europe. In 1969, 1970, we had the largest displacement of the population, probably since the Second World War in Western Europe, with the people being expelled from their homes and their streets, whole streets burned down, as a backlash against the civil rights movement. And we had a war of attrition going on the streets. The British Army, the RUC, the police of the time. And of course then you had the nationalist community, Republican community defending themselves, which moved into an offensive war for independence. So we had a long period of conflict from 1969 as only the latest phase of conflict in Irish and Britain history. And we moved from 1969, the 70s, the 80s, through the hunger strikes, people losing their lives in jail, many people losing their lives on the streets, people have been bombed to death, people have been shot to death, thousands of people imprisoned, to a peace process which we believe is successful. And it is successful in that others around the world are asking for our opinions and our advice or our insights into how we resolve certain key issues. So no matter about the intensity of the struggle or the conflict in any region of the world, there are lessons to be learned from what might be described as successful resolution processes. And we offer some of our insights and our experiences in a very humble way, because we do believe that they can offer assistance to others. And that's all we are able to do, and we will do that very, very willingly. So in the last number of years, we were very fortunate to have inclusive negotiations. We ended up with an agreement called the Good Friday Agreement. That was endorsed by the people across the island of Ireland, a very important endorsement. And we have been working in the last period of years, since 1998, to have that agreement fully implemented. And we have not yet fully implemented that agreement. And while we've made good progress, we have a lot more to do. But it is true to say that in the past 5 or 6 years, we have the longest period of political stability in the history of the state of the north of Ireland. And of course, the agreement provides that we have to share power in the north of Ireland according to the strength of your mandate. And that means at this moment, Sinn Féin and the largest unionist party, the Democratic Unionist Party, are now the joint leaders of the institutions in the north of Ireland. And I am very proud to be a member of that institution. And we are also, of course, working with and joined with what you may call the Irish Republic, the rest of Ireland, in terms of joint governance on certain policy matters. So it is not a united Ireland for Irish Republicans, but we believe it gives us a very firm platform upon which to achieve a united Ireland, self-determination for all of the Irish people in a peaceful and democratic way, and in a way in which, if we can develop a strand of reconciliation between our peoples as we work in the time ahead, that we can achieve that united Ireland sooner and on the basis of agreement. So we believe, and we are confident as Irish Republicans, that we will achieve our ultimate goals on a peaceful and an objective basis, but on the basis that the peace process we outlined was a modest requirement for self-determination, equality for all of our people working together, and the ability and the right enshrined in the legislation and in the Constitution that all of the citizens are equal, that all of the political parties are absolutely free to exercise their political mandate. So the lessons that we have learned in the last number of years is that we, as people who want the most change, have to make the greatest effort. I have often heard even my own comrades say, why do we have to keep taking another initiative? Why do we have to keep taking another step forward? And the very simple answer is this, that we are the people who want the most change. There are many others who are either afraid of change, there are many others who are resistant to change, and we still have those people in our community today. So those of us who want the most change, and we want most change because we want a free, independent Ireland. We also want a progressive social programme throughout the country. We also want full equality for people. And in order to achieve that, we have to work hard. We are absolutely committed to working hard, and we believe that we are making very, very considerable progress. But there are people still from my community who are not wedded to the peace process and would try to derail that, and I don't believe that they will have any remote chance of success. There are also others, either from the unionist community or even from within the British establishment, who are very uncomfortable about the progress that is currently being made, because they still want to maintain some type of control or influence in my country. So it is our job to try to deal with those issues, to empathise in the words in which Professor Johan Galton referred to earlier on. We need to understand where our opponents are coming from. We need to understand why there are people in our community who resist the change, and we need to speak to them about that. And we have described the current phase of our political activity at the moment is seeking to have what we call uncomfortable conversations with our political opponents, and that is to try to redress the hurt of the past conflict so as that we can leave the past behind us, learning from it, making sure we never repeat it, but moving forward on the basis that we at least understand where each of us are coming from. We each understand the hurt that we either endured or inflicted, so as that we can at least try to move forward on a positive basis. Because for us, we have a peace agreement which, in a way, enforces the parties to work together. We want a process which the parties will embrace to work together. And that is our next challenge in the time ahead. So I just want to thank the conference organisers for allowing Sinn Féin, my party, to be here today to share with your discussions. I do once again commit my party to our solidarity with the Kurdish people. We are constantly hoping to learn from you. We are absolutely very, very committed to sharing any of our experiences of our peace process over the last number of years, and continue to make ourselves available to yourselves if we can be in any way of any assistance. So could I just, on that last remark then, wish you well in your deliberations. It is very important and critically important time, particularly in the context, as has been referred to earlier on, the turmoil in the Middle East as we speak. So thank you very much and good luck.